for some prayer. First, we're going to do a little breath work. So, those of you who are online, feel free to join us. Those of you who are in the sanctuary and online, I want you to sit facing forward in your chair. Put both feet flat on the floor. And then I want you to turn your palms up on your lap. So, put your hands on your lap and have the palms facing up. Now, I want you to take a nice deep breath with your eyelids closed. I'm going to count you through those breaths that you take. So we're going to do some 4 count breaths. And we're going to take in a deep breath to the count of 4. We're going to hold it for a count of 4. And then we're going to release it for a count of 4. So it's going to be something like this. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you got it? Okay, we're going to do a 4. We're going to do a 7. We're going to do a 4. Okay, so I want you to inhale. I'll count. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now shake it out. Shake your hand. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. We're going to do a 7 count. You ready? Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Last one, 4 count. Ready? Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Now, I want you to open your eyes and I want you to blink as fast as you can. I want you to just start blinking and just keep blinking, keep blinking. Blink, 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 blink. You're waking up your mind. Blink, 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 blink. Keep blinking, keep blinking, keep blinking, keep blinking. You're waking up your brain. You say, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Your brain is resetting itself because what am I seeing? Am I seeing something? I'm not seeing something. Yeah, I'm seeing something. No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay? Now, let's pray. Great Mother, great Father God, divine Holy Spirit, Jesus the Christ, I am. We bless you for this day. We bless you for all that has been accomplished in this day. We bless you for everything that we are going to learn and take in tonight. God, we open ourselves wide to you in this safe place to be as vulnerable as we need to be, to share, to listen, to glean from all that will be able to help us on our journey to being free. God, I thank you for this opportunity to teach and to use my gifts as a life coach. And I ask God that you would bless everyone under the sound of my voice, even those who will hear this recording weeks and months from now. I give you the glory, the honor, and the praise that is thine and thine alone. I let it be so, and so it is. Amen, amen, and amen. All right. Good evening. So tonight we're going to go a little deeper than we have gone before in Bible study. Um, and I was asked earlier, what made you pick guilt and shame? And the reason I chose guilt and shame is because I had a conversation with someone. And whenever I have a conversation with someone, I think about what they're saying. And then I say, okay, Spirit, if it's in the chair, it's in the room. In other words, if this person has questions and this person have questions and they're in this chair, then everybody in this room could benefit from the questions because we're all connected. It's the reason that we are all together all the time. So we're going to talk about guilt versus shame, but it's not versus as One is worse than the other, one is better than the other, one is more unproductive than the other. It's just going to be how we look at both of them and we move through them. So tonight we're going to talk about the differences between guilt and shame, because a lot of times people use them intertwined, intermingled, that are like, oh, I felt guilty. Is that guilt or is that shame? How is it connected? Where do you feel it in your body? All of those things will help you understand the difference between guilt and shame. Which one do I have? Well, it depends what your experiences are. What do you feel when you have this feeling? What are you feeling? And then how is it affecting my life? Both of them are detrimental. I'm telling you, both of them are detrimental. And a lot of times we don't know what's working in us until a time like this when somebody helps us to understand it and they start to pull it out. So, slide number one, let's talk about guilt. So, we're going to start with guilt. We're going to start with guilt. What is guilt? Guilt is concerned with one's responsibility for a harmful attitude or behavior. So, what is my responsibility for this harmful act? That's guilt. I know I'm responsible in some way for this, whatever has happened, be it attitude or behavior, right? That's guilt. I wrecked my best friend's car. I feel guilty. I didn't go into work. I said I was sick. I know I wasn't. I feel guilty. That's what I'm feeling. The emotion that I'm feeling is guilt. I feel guilty. Now, here's one of the biggest um, attributes of guilt that separates guilt from shame and that will let you know whether you're feeling guilt or whether you're feeling shame. Guilt says, I've done wrong. I do bad things, or I did something wrong. I did a bad thing. That's guilt. Guilt says, I have done something that wasn't right. I've done something that wasn't pleasant. I knew better and I did it anyway, and I'm still thinking about it. That's guilt. Okay. Guilt happens outside of who we are. Now, those of you who are reminded students, you know what I'm talking about when I say outside of who I am. It's not happening inside of me. It's something outside of me that's causing me to feel this way. So that's guilt, right? The car that's wrecked, the lie I told my boss, whatever's outside of me that's causing me to have this feeling, we know that's guilt. Okay. Now, here's what a lot of people don't know. There are three kinds of guilt. Three kinds of guilt that will just have you spinning and spinning and spinning if you're not careful. The first type of guilt is natural guilt. Natural guilt is the guilt we feel when we do something that we've been taught is wrong. When you've been taught that something is wrong and you do it, then you feel guilty. Here's the thing about that natural guilt. I will feel guilty even if I don't think it's wrong. So if you've been taught that something's wrong and you don't think it's wrong, if you do it, you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel guilty because you're going to say, now my mama didn't raise me like that. Even though for mama, it may have been something, but for me, I don't feel that. So, like, for me, something as simple as wearing pants in the church or wearing makeup. And I would feel guilty in the beginning because I was taught that that was wrong. But as I got older, the guilt just went away because I was like, no, I like this. So I'm going to keep on doing it. This is the feeling that we experience because of immediate and specific events. That's the thing about natural guilt. This incident was immediate and it was a particular thing. It wasn't just a random act. It wasn't 50 acts in one. This was specific: wearing pants in church, or cursing, or being in a relationship with someone that is the same sex. If you've been taught that's wrong, that will bother you. I don't care. I have so many clients and they say, well, I theoretically, I understand it. I get it. I understand that I don't have to do everything my husband said, but my mama said, or the church said, or how I was raised. And so I feel guilty. Now, with natural guilt, it is something, like I said, it is specific and it is an immediate. You will feel it immediately. Not you go home and you think about it and then you say, oh, now I feel guilty for that. No, when you have natural guilt, you're going to feel it in the moment, right then. So sometimes we'll say, well, first I didn't care, but now I feel guilty. Mm-mm, that's not guilt. That's not guilt. That's not guilt that you feel. The second kind of guilt is toxic guilt. Toxic guilt. Now, toxic guilt is a totally different beast, all on its own. This is the worst type of guilt. The worst type of guilt that you can feel is toxic guilt, right? Natural guilt, oh, something happened. Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel guilty. You go on, you get over it. Toxic guilt happens when we don't let go of the natural guilt. So you felt guilty, and now you bringing that guilt with you every day in every situation, and you still talking about it, and it's still going on, and now you just feel guilty. Toxic guilt is ever present and builds over time because we allow it to stack up rather than forgive ourselves and move on. So, some people that you may know, and maybe I'm just the only one who knows them, they hold on to stuff and they say, I still feel guilty because of what I did. I still feel guilty about what happened. I still feel guilty. So that word still is your clue that that's toxic guilt because it's eating them up. And remember, I said guilt happens where? On the outside of you. So if guilt is on the outside of you and it's still eating me up, it's not eating up the outside of me, it's now inside because I will not let this go. So that's toxic. It's toxic guilt. Then, before you know it, when you don't let that guilt go, when you don't let the natural guilt go, and everybody's going to feel it, you're going to feel guilty. Oh, I didn't mean for that to happen. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, sweetheart. Oh, no, I didn't know. When you don't let that go, you start to walk in a state of guilt. And when you're walking in a state of guilt, you're making yourself responsible for everything happening around you. Have you ever met somebody? You can come in here and say, well, I wonder why they didn't turn the lights on. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I was here first. I should have turned those lights on. Now everything is their fault. Everything, they're apologizing for everything. Okay, that's toxic guilt. That guilt has become a part of who they are. They had a natural guilt situation probably 25 years ago, and they never dealt with it. They never let it go. And so now they have become, a person that walks in a state of guilt. I don't care what it is. They feel guilty. It's my fault. And if you walk around like that long enough, it begins to affect your consciousness, how you think about things outside of you. Because remember, guilt's outside. How you think about everything going on out around you. What's happening? You want to know because you want to feel guilty about it. You don't want to miss an opportunity to feel guilty. It's non-productive, but people get in that spot and they stay there and they start apologizing for everything. So then what begins to happen is they don't move in their life. They don't move forward because the guilt is on their lap and you can't walk with something on your lap. You got to let that stuff go so that you can move forward because otherwise you're just going to live in a state of guilt. And I don't, if the mailman drops your neighbor's mail and the neighbor comes over and say, you know, he dropped my mail. Oh, honey, I am so sorry. Now I don't know why he did that. Now you're worrying because you are now in a state of guilt. So here's my little slide for you all to my slide man back there asleep. Next slide. We're on slide number 5. There it is. Let it go. Let it go. It happened. You did it. If you don't like it, don't do it again. If you do like it, you shouldn't feel guilty because you like it. Go on with it. You understand what I'm saying? If you like it and you're doing it, go on, make it a part of your lifestyle. I like it. This is what I like. Rather than every time you do it, dragging around this guilt. No, it is what it is. I just had 3 pieces of pizza. I feel just fine. I do not feel guilty because I was determined that I was going to eat some pizza today, and I did just that. I'll exercise tomorrow. So now we got the two, the natural guilt, you got your toxic guilt, and then you got your existential guilt. This guilt is not nearly as bad as the other two. But the natural guilt's not bad. You're going to have that. But when you get to existential guilt, existential guilt for some people is just a part of life. Some people feel guilt because of what's happening around them. So they look at the war in Ukraine and they feel so guilty. Why? Because their life is not that bad. They feel guilty because the children in Africa are hungry. Why? Because they feed their children every day. Then they feel guilty about the homelessness in California. So these are the people that work themselves in the ground doing everything for everybody else. They feel guilty because they drive a nice car. They feel guilty because they're the one in the family that quote unquote made it. They feel guilty because they make a certain amount of money. They feel guilty because they can shop in certain stores. They feel guilty. Now that's just it's not like toxic guilt. It's not going to kill them. It's not going to eat them up. They're not going to enjoy their lives. They will not enjoy the fruits of their labor. So, quick story, because that used to be my drug of choice, was existential guilt. I mean, I wanted to save the world. I'm a Pisces, right? So I wanted to save the whole world. So when we got married, Pastor bought me for my first anniversary a little 5 Series BMW. It was a 530, and I would not drive it. I wouldn't drive that car. It would stay. I would not drive that car. So I was still driving my old beat up minivan that the kids would call the loser cruiser. So I'm still driving the loser cruiser because I didn't want anybody to know I got that BMW, right? So one day he said to me, why won't you accept anything that I give you? And I tried to explain to him, it felt like I was leaving my friends. Like I felt like I was leaving the life that I had come to know in divorce, and I was leaving the struggle. I was out of the struggle. And you know, sometimes you kind of don't want to be out the struggle because everybody else still in the struggle. And truth to be told, it was good times in the struggle, but ugh, I was stuck. Like I was stuck. So he gave me the scripture about hiding, you know, your light under a bushel. And then I started driving the car. And did people talk? Yeah, they did talk. They talked, but it was not nearly as bad as what I thought it would be. And there was history to that because when we got engaged, people would say to him, "Oh, why does she want to marry you? Is she a gold digger? What is she trying to get?" I mean, people even put these comments on our wedding registry because I had written a little poem that says, "We have 2 irons, 2 refrigerators, too many kids, or whatever." And everybody knows he only had one. So one lady she put on there, she's like, "Well, how many kids? I hope you know what you're getting." That's what she put on my wedding registry. And so I started to run this in my mind. And then I was like, I really don't want him to give me anything or do anything for me because I don't want it to seem like that scenario was true. So do you understand what I'm talking about existential guilt? That's the crap that you can't change. You cannot change, and you shouldn't feel guilty about your life. You shouldn't feel guilty about the abundance that you have, or what you have come into, or how your children turn out, or anything. You don't shouldn't feel guilty about anything that's outside of you. I couldn't do nothing about that. That it is what it is. I mean, look at me. I'm beautiful. He wanted me. I tried to say no. I said no. I said I can't marry you. He was just, just determined to just, take on me and my bills and everything and make my life better. I tried, but he just wouldn't do it. So those are the types of guilt. What questions do you have about guilt?
It's good information. I'm trying to categorize all the different guilts.
Mhm.
So when you were young, when I was younger, for example, and I didn't meet up to my mama's standard because I did this and I didn't do this, and how that carried on. So I'm looking at the definitions going, okay, that might be part of natural, and some of it came into the relationship, it could become toxic. So it can kind of go from category, except for the existential. Yes?
hmm it can even the existential, all of the guilts, like you in one day you can move between all of them. Like on a Sunday, you may have gotten to church late and they started singing without you, and so you kind of feel guilty that you weren't there. And then you get home and you're eating dinner, and they put the little African children with the flies all on them and everything right during dinner time. So now you're feeling guilt. That's existential guilt. You're feeling guilt about, what I'm saying? So you can have all these emotions in a day. And when you know how to cast them down, or you are willing to cast them down, then it's just an emotion. It's just what you feel. Deandra.
How do you cast them down?
So you, just like the Bible says, you cast down every imagination that would exalt itself above God. God has given you everything that you have. He made you perfect. So why would you feel guilty about what you have? Why would you feel guilty about people being homeless when you don't even know why they're homeless or how they got to that state? Why would you feel guilty because you wrecked somebody's car to the point that you're going to take it with you until it's toxic and eating you up? Why would you do that? So you are going to have to take it within yourself, think about it, process it, sit with it. And once you sit with it for a moment, you can say, well, let me get on over here and get this pizza, because there ain't nothing you can do about it. You have to know your limitations and your what is best for your well-being, for you to hold on to that. And so we see that a lot in families. We all know the one that we can make feel guilty to get what we want. We all know, and for many of us, it's us. For many of us, we're the one. So, people lean on us because they know that we will feel we'll feel guilty, we'll feel some type of way, we'll break down and be the one to leave Thanksgiving dinner and go get the ice cream and come back. You know what I'm saying? But when you start to process what you're doing and why you're doing it, you will get stronger, and you'll be able to sit there while everybody's talking about there's no ice cream. You will not say one word. You'll just be sitting there. You won't feel it. And even if you feel it, you'll say to yourself, yep, I feel it, but I'm not going. I'm not going to be the one. I'm not going to do it. So that's how you cast it down. Okay, no more questions about guilt. Oh, because we're going on over here to shame. Let's talk about shame. Now, this is the juicy part. Now, this is the root of the matter here. Let's talk about shame. What is shame? Shame says, I'm wrong. Not I did wrong. I'm wrong. I'm a bad person. Not just my actions. Who I am as a person is wrong. That's shame. When you feel unworthy, insignificant, irrelevant, undeserving, inadequate, inferior, that is shame. That root is shame. That's not guilt. Oh, I didn't take it because I just feel guilty. No, you feel unworthy. Now we have crossed over totally, because shame happens on the inside. It happens in where we believe who we are. who I am as a person. Shame is an inside job. Shame is more toxic than any toxic guilt. Shame will, Elder Moss and I were just talking about bathing suits. And I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it. That's shame. That's not guilt. That's shame. It's deep rooted, and it's so deeply rooted that it's very hard to move past it, because where guilt is on the outside of you, shame is on the inside of you. It's on the inside of you. It's like you fighting you. I can walk away from something you said and eventually I'll get over it. But when I've got that inner critic talking in my mind 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, see, you don't have a better job because you can't do no better than that. You won't do any better than that. See, you're lazy. You don't want to do nothing. See, you ain't gonna be nothing. You just like your daddy. That all of that stuff that breeds that shame. And then that thing gets deep rooted. And here's the thing about shame that a lot of people don't understand is that shame can start as early as in the womb. In the womb. Shame. Yes, a pregnant young woman who's ashamed that she's pregnant or has been shamed, that baby feels that shame. And now you have a child that's already, because they've been living in this shame broth for 9 months. 9 months. And then you say when they 2 or 3, I don't know why he act like that. Cause that's how you carried him. Shame. Shame is unbelievably toxic. Shame will cause people to take their own lives because they cannot say something, they cannot move past it, they cannot talk about it. I'm reminded of a story that was in the news. A young man was in college and he was with another person. I wish Selena wasn't in here. He was with another person. Okay. And so his other roommate came and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm going to tell everybody." And he committed suicide. The thought, the shame, deep rooted shame caused him to take his own life. He said, "I can't do it." Okay. So shame happens from the inside out, guilt happens from the outside in. So shame happens from the inside out. And a lot of people have such deep roots in shame, they call it everything else except for shame. And they may very well not know that it's shame. But they mask it, they cover it, they buy more clothes, they buy bigger houses, fancier cars, they do all of that, all to cover up this shame that they feel, and they don't know how to get released from it. Okay. Shame is a negative self evaluation, not a self image, a self evaluation. How I evaluate myself, how I take, how I take, what's the word, of myself, how I look at myself. Like, okay, nope, I don't do this. I'm not this. I can't do this. I don't look like this. I'm not this thin, blah, 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 blah. A negative evaluation, self evaluation. Shame can start at a very early age within your lifetime. And sometimes uh, people never ever get past the shame, and they never live their life freely and abundantly because of the shame that they have felt from outside influences, from someone saying something or whatever case. What were you going to ask me, Deandra? So shame can start from, we're going to get to that because that's a very, very good question. It can start from somebody's comment, but when we get over there, because you're going to remember this from Reminded. Shame is fed by our thoughts more so than our actions. Our actions are guilt, produce guilt. Our thoughts produce shame. Our thoughts produce shame. And when people feel shame, that inner critic does not shut up. And it will keep on going and going and going. So going back to Elder Moss's question, when she was talking about, what was your question, Elder Moss? Hmm. It was toxic, and then it flipped over, and the thoughts and the thoughts and the thoughts. And so you now have a root of shame behind that, whatever area that was. Does that make sense? Okay. Next slide, slide number 8. Can guilt turn into shame? Yes, 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 yes. Guilt on the outside of us, if persistently thought about, can become shame on the inside of us. Your guilt on the outside, not being good enough for your mom, not being good enough for your father, not looking like everybody else in the family, not being the smart one, not all of those nots, when it's constantly said to you as a child, roots a bulb of shame. And then you spend your whole life trying to outrun it or outmaneuver it. Do you have a question? Okay. You spend your whole life trying to outroot it or get away from it. Yes, Selena?
wanted I wanted to say, wouldn't like guilt be an internal thing instead of an outside thing? Cause like, can't both of them be internal instead of like one being an internal and one external?
So the root of them, yes, that's a very good question. But the root of them and how they start is on the outside. So remember, I said guilt. If something happens on the outside of me, then I'll feel guilty, right? Very few people feel guilty when their kidneys shut down, or if they, have a heart attack or something. Like, even if they ate themselves to that, they don't feel guilty. They're just like, this is my body and it betrayed me, right? But something on the outside, then we feel that guilt. We feel like that was out of my control, even though it happened. I'm responsible. Remember, that was the key word with guilt. I'm responsible for that. But shame happens on the inside. It's a reflection of who we have made a belief of who we are. So shame will say, you too short for that. You can't do that. So then when you get around a lot of tall people, you're feeling something. You feel inferior. You feel it is like, okay, yes, and that's shame. And that's shame. That is exactly what that is. And something just that simple will cause you to feel that way. And then when you're constantly using it in your conversation, well, I'm the short one, so that's shame. Well, I was always the tallest one in class. I was always the end of the line. Why do you line kindergartners up by height? I don't know. But I'm always going to be the last one in the line. I was always, even the boys, I was always the last person in the line because I was tall. So when we would go to have something and people would always say, "Do you play basketball?" No. "You don't play basketball?" Mm-mm. And it just created this it just created this thing inside. This is like, I don't want to go nowhere where they playing basketball because they're gonna think I can play, and I don't want to get chosen or put on anybody's team. So now I'm put that's shame. That's not guilt. That becomes our story, and then we start to pin a story around the shame that we carry, and so that's it. So a new belief can be created from an act of guilt. So back to Selena's question, if you carry that guilt, that toxic guilt, long enough, you will create a belief, create a story, and now you're dealing with shame because you have now let that guilt become a part of you. And now it's no longer outside, it's inside. People who have had molestation, rape, and those kinds of things. At first, they feel guilty. I should have been in the house by 9. I should have. And then the next thing you know, this thing has blossomed into something else. And now, oh no, I don't date. Oh no, I this and this and this. No, now that's shame. But that should have never been shame because that was outside of you and that was not your doing. So, does that make sense? Next slide. You should be ashamed of yourself. How many got that from their mama? your grandmama, your aunt, your next door neighbor, the teacher. You should be ashamed of yourself. Little kids, and someone is bending down, cursing in your face. Little kids. See, all that's the root of shame. All that's the starting of shame. And a lot of times, those people grow up and they're that same way to their kids and to other children or to other adults even. Their spouses, they're just out of control. That shame is so unbearable that it just spews out. It just spews out. And so when we have little children that are like my granddaughter Journey Grace, when my boys come, we say, Journey, give Uncle Ryan a hug. She said, no, I don't want to give him a hug. I said, well, that's it, Uncle Ryan. You don't want to. She don't want to hug you. Not, that's your uncle. Why are you acting like that? Get over there and hug him. So what am I teaching you? So now when someone else wants to touch me, the shame of back then is now like I don't have the right to say no. And then it goes further, and now you feel so much shame because you're saying yes to everything. And what is that doing? Another layer of shame, another layer of shame, another layer of shame. So when our voice is taken away, it roots shame. When you lose your voice, it roots, that's the beginning root of shame. When your no can't mean no, when you can't share your opinion in your family, when you can't say what you want to say. And we know generations past, it was really brutal because they already had a different lifestyle than we have now. They were trying to make it and keep us alive. And, so that was a whole different time. Because to get beat or whatever, that was just the norm. You gonna get a beat down, and and that ain't nobody listening to you, and mama gonna come to the school and she gonna tell the teacher how wrong you are, how bad you are, how I've been trying to straighten them out, they just bad, I just don't know what to do with them, blah 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 blah. Now how you gonna do your best in school? How are you going to graduate and even think about going to a college or even think about getting a certain type of job? Where are you going to land when you've just been shamed for your whole life? You've just been pressed down. So a lot of people have that root with that shame. A lot of people don't trust themselves. They won't say what they want to say. They don't use their intuition. Their intuition could be telling them to do something, but the thought of being wrong and dealing with the shame, they say, I'm not going to do it. And so they don't move ahead in their lives. They just stay stuck. So, how do we get shame? You can be shamed by someone else. Since shame happens inside of you, here you go, Selena. It is impossible for someone to shame you if you don't agree with what is being stated or performed. So, for those of you who are from my reminder classes and those of you who are here tonight and online, you can't shame me if I don't agree with what you're saying. So this is why children get shamed, because they agree, they don't know not to agree. Whatever mama said or daddy said or cousin said or whoever said, they take that, whatever the teacher said, there you get it. Because this is why you don't get adults being molested. You don't see that. A child, because they're trusting. And so this is what happens to them because of that trust. They shame them into, well, you're doing this and you're doing this and blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you know, you got a whole situation. You can't do that to a grown person. Now, some folks just want to be molested, but grown folks, and it is what it is. But when you're an adult, nobody can shame you if that thing does not live inside of you already. I cannot say that enough. If you think that you're dumb and someone comes up and calls you dumb, you feel shame. If you don't think you're dumb and someone calls up and calls you dumb, you say, now what is wrong with him? And you can move on. It's like that you're triggered when shame is already living inside of you and someone calls you out, it's like they flip that switch. And when they flip that switch, that trigger, then it's there. But it's there because it already lives there. So this is why when we talk about guilt and shame and we talk about casting down imaginations, you have to know who you are. And you have to know who you are on a level that is more than, oh, I look good. Because that's nothing. Because the right person is going to come and they're going to flip that switch. And you might be in bed for 2 weeks trying to get yourself together. Because when you're able to stand in who you are and you know, this is who I am, I don't care what they say, this is who I am. This is what I do. It doesn't matter to me. That's outside. That's an outside influence. When you're good with you on the inside, people cannot shame you. So you won't have that shame. You won't be triggered by what someone said. Anytime you are triggered, I don't care what it is. Anytime you are triggered to the point that you just want to cuss somebody out, you want to lay it down, you want to just act like a city with no walls, it is because some of what they said is truth inside of you. And that's why they say, oh, I must have touched their nerve. I hit that nerve. Oh yeah, I know you. And then, they keep on going because they know they got you. They know they got you. So your work is to shore yourself up. And even if someone does hit that nerve, if you shore yourself up tight enough, you'll be able to say, you know what, I'm going to walk away. But don't ignore that feeling. Why did that tick me off? Why did that take me there? Do your work. Go inside of yourself so that the next time you don't even have to deal with it. You won't even have to deal with it. What is ashamed? So people say, oh, I'm ashamed. Is that shame or is that I'm ashamed? Ashamed is embarrassed or guilty because of your actions, characteristics, or associations. So you should be ashamed of yourself. If I say that, that would not say that shame lives in you. That's saying you should feel guilty about what you did. It's still my opinion, because remember, that's outside of you. If you say, oh my God, I feel so ashamed, it's it's not that you have shame in you. You feel guilty about what you did, about what was said or done, or whatever the situation was. I feel so ashamed, because we'll say that and we'll be cracking up laughing. We know we did it. We know it was wrong. And say, oh my God, I feel so ashamed. Oh my God, I'm so ashamed right now. That's not shame. That's not a deep root shame. That is the guilt area. We still back there in the guilt. Ashamed is an adjective. It describes how you or someone else thinks you should feel. That's why people say you should be ashamed of yourself. It's how they feel that you should feel. Now, if you have shame and you see someone else doing something that you wouldn't do, and you start harping on them about how they should feel ashamed, then you need to check yourself because that's your stuff. You're like, oh, that didn't bother y'all? Ain't nobody bothered but you. That's your shame. That's your stuff. That's not everybody else's stuff. That's your own stuff. And you got to be careful how you take on other people's crap. Just because that bothers you does not mean that bothers me. Just because you won't go to a nightclub and you won't sit at a bar in a restaurant, that's your stuff. I'm not going to let you put that on me. And I'm not going to let that dig up any shame from when I was a child and mama said you don't go around people who drinking. No, 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 that's not how this works. This is why you got to shore yourself up and know who you are so that you control what shame you feel, what guilt you feel, and not other people's opinions. I always say when the voices inside of you get louder than the voices outside of you, you have mastered your life. Okay? When you feel ashamed, that is outside of you. Slide number 11, key takeaways for guilt and shame. With guilt, feeling remorse or responsible for something you've done wrong or perceived you did wrong. That's guilt. Feeling remorse or responsible for something you've done wrong or perceived that you did wrong. That's guilt. Because sometimes it's not even wrong, but if it's wrong for you, then you'll feel guilty. Relating to a specific action, like making a mistake, committing an offense, or hurting someone intentionally or unintentionally, and it's outside of you. So let me just talk for a moment about guilt and making a mistake, committing an offense, or hurting someone, right? If you make a mistake, it is what it is. If you can fix it, fix it. If you can't fix it, let it be. If you make a mistake or you make a choice that you don't like, I'm not going to say a bad choice. If you make a choice that you don't like, make a different one. If you're doing something that you don't like, that makes you feel guilty, stop doing it and do something else. But if what you're doing doesn't make you feel guilty, why would you change? Why are you changing? Yes, Elder Moss.
So the question I have is, there also a fine line when you can say something and the other person receiving it feels guilty. You had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
They feel guilt. So let me think of a good example. So I see Chris and I said, "Oh, you look so nice. Oh, you getting around thick in the middle or something." And
Mhm.
not that you are. I'm just saying I just picked something. And so when somebody says that and you say, "Oh, I felt some kind of way." And then if I see her later going, I'm still thinking about that. And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I can mess around and carry that I made her feel some kind of way for some days when actually it may be rooted in something that she's
And so
feeling. And it's a vicious
how did you
cycle.
make her feel? How did you make her feel?
She felt the
How do you know that?
shame. Oh,
How do you know how you made her feel?
because when she came back to me and said, I'm still thinking about you. I can't believe you
So what
told
happened
me.
earlier in her day?
Oh, I don't know what
What
happened.
happened in her childhood?
Right. That's what I mean.
How do you know that you made her feel a certain way? I'm telling you, because people load off all kind of stuff on other people. Where we were watching a video before we came out here, and the councilman, I mean, he is just a complete mess. Eric Mays in Flint. Oh my goodness. He done cussed out the council members, cussed out everybody. And then the one cop said something and he just harped on it, harped on it, harped on it, harped on it. And I was like, see, he was already mad about this other part. And then when this man said something, he just unleashed everything on this man. And so that's what we have to be careful of. If I say something to Sister Chris and it upsets her, and she says to me, that upset me. That really, that upset me. I'm gonna say, oh, Chris, it was not my intention. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. That's natural guilt. I'm done with that. Because if Chris keep on bringing that every Sunday, here she come, I'm still thinking about last week. It's leading lady day, and she said, well, I love leading lady, except for that time when she said, it's just like, are you kidding me? You still talking about that? And we all know people like that. We're like, are you still talking about that? I'm done with that. But you cannot take that on for yourself. That's your stuff. That's not mine. And you got to recognize it, because the people that are in the existential guilt section or the toxic guilt, they're gonna keep taking it in. They're gonna call you, remind you of how they hurt you, so that you can say something else bad to them. And then you get, and it amazes me, because sometimes we come into church, and we've dealt with this in the past. Thank God we got different members now, but people will come in, instead of coming in, hey, and go and sit down. They go right, beeline right to the person that don't like them. Hey, how you doing? I just want to tell you, bless you. God bless you. God bless your life. And then when this person say something smart, now you ruined for the whole service. And now you want to talk to pastor after service. Well, all I was trying to do was say hello. And all I was trying to do, no, 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 no. She don't like you. And you don't like her. And that's okay. Girl, hey, oh hey, yeah, and going on over there and sit down. But that guilt, that existential, that toxic guilt, we want to feel. Sometimes We are so used to feeling a certain way. We will seek it out. We will seek it out and wrap up in it like a blanket. We will go find it. We're gonna find it in the grocery store. We're gonna find it every day, every week, every month. These people have the same story about what happened to them because this, well, well, girl, I just keep telling her I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. I just keep saying I'm sorry. Mothers do it. Well, I'm just so sorry. I did the best I could with y'all. Y'all didn't come with instructions. Listen, let me tell you what I told mine. Lay on the couch somewhere and talk about your childhood to somebody that you're paying. Because I did the best I could with what I had. I ain't got nothing else to give you. I ain't got no guilt. I'm not gonna. You're not gonna guilt me. Not that my kids would even try because they've been with me for all their lives. They know I don't care. You know, like Jennison, my 8-year-old grandson. He said to me one day. He said, "Grandma, Journey slipped and fell." I said, "She did?" He said, "Yes." And Journey said, "I'm okay." He said, "Mommy said nobody asked." He said, "Don't you think that was mean?" Grandma, don't you think that was mean? I said, "Your mama's under a lot of pressure, baby. She's doing the best she can." But those are the kinds of things like when they get grown, they're gonna say that back to you. I don't feel guilty. I did the best I could with what I had. But what I knew, if I had known better, I would have done better. That was all I had to give you. I'm sorry. That was it. There's your there's your one. I'm sorry. You want your Christmas present? You're not taking it? Okay. And then you cannot, you can't, ex spouses, children that you could have done better by, all those kinds of things, ex co-workers and all, you can't carry that stuff because in that moment you made the best decision that you could make in that moment. Yeah, now when I'm standing back looking at it, I probably shouldn't have said nothing about Chris. But when I was standing there, I did. She looked a little thick in the middle, so I said, "Chris, you're putting on a little weight." But I wouldn't do it now that I know how she feel about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because you see your good girlfriend or her daughter or something. You say, "Girl, you having another baby?" No, ooh. And then you're just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But you're not gonna take that to your grave. And so that's how we have to look at things. And let me tell you something. One of the things that I have learned is to let things go quickly. The Bible says, agree with your adversary quickly so that you can be done with it. And what that does is it not only frees you, it frees the other person too. I'm going to free you from talking about this every week because I ain't going to talk about it with you. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to iron dog with you about 25 years ago, what happened and all this kind. I'm not going to do that. And a lot of times in families, this is where you get the whole messy holidays and summers and somebody always bringing it up. Get yourself right on up. So y'all excuse me and leave. And then guess what? They gonna say, "Don't talk about that with Nisa in here because she gonna get up and leave." Because everybody knows me. Oh, y'all, nope, I'm not. I'm not going there because I know this isn't gonna end well. Okay. Any other questions about guilt before we wrap up shame? Okay. Shame, the feeling that you are bad, worthy of contempt, or inadequate as a person. Such a difference from guilt and shame. Guilt says I've done wrong. Shame says I am wrong. My life, my being, who I am is just wrong. And so this is why as African Americans we still struggle because our very existence is wrong. What was wrong was the way it was portrayed to us was that all y'all wrong. You just wrong. The whole race is just wrong. And so that's why we struggle with the shame. That's what we're feeling when we go on a job interview. That's what we're feeling when we over prepare for everything. When we overdress and spend our bill money so that, well, they don't know, they know we look good. No, they know that you spending your bill money. They don't know anything else than the fact that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I heard in Bible study today, Bishop was talking about what we call white privilege. And it's not that they have a privilege that we don't have. They have a mindset that Okay, I'm white. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to get what I want. We have a mindset that they have to give me what I want. Somebody's got to give it to me. We have a mindset. Well, I'm going here and she better give me my stuff. We always talking about making money. I'm gonna make some money. When I make money, I make money, I make money. Money's only made one time. That's in the mint. You earning it from then on out. When you look at it from that point, you just like, let me get out here and earn me some money. That means I gotta work. I gotta do something. I've got to earn me some money. And so it's all in the way we think and the thoughts of how we were treated. That was on the outside of us has come in and taken root and made shame where there shouldn't be shame, where there should not be shame. Because we will teach our children to, if your teacher says this, then you do this. If this happens, then you do this. Then and if this happens, then you do this. If somebody says something to you, then you say this, then you do this. You don't let nobody punk you down. You don't let nobody tell you that. You don't blah 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 blah. And we teach them that, but we don't teach them this is just as much your right as it is everybody else's. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be ignorant. You're not wearing that because you want to be respected, not because you want to look white. See, we've made it a black and a white thing. And so it's like I have the right to wear these Mickey Mouse pajamas in the airport. No, they're not gonna respect you now. Because the black people, truth be told, don't even respect you. Sim there looking like Mickey Mouse. I saw the girl had the whole hood on and the little ears and everything. She had to be at least 35 with the whole Mickey Mouse on something, the shoes, the blanket, in the airport. And then we said, "Oh, go Queen." Oh, no, no, no. Go somewhere and sit down. That's not. And so we as a people have taken that outside guilt and condemnation and made it our shame. We've normalized it, packaged it, and sold it. Yes, it is our that's our thing, calling each other the N-word. Now, if that word is so bad, how can I call you that, but nobody else can call you that? No, if the word is not to be used, then nobody use it, including you, Bishop. Nobody use it because you know he'll put his little spin on it and shorten it up a little bit. It's the same thing. All right. So shame relating to our behavior or self, often in relation to other people's opinions, not necessarily about a specific behavior or event. Shame happens inside of you. Questions, comments, concerns, concessions. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Hmm. That's right. And that's what it is. Believe in the lie. And who gets to determine if it's a lie? That's right. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. You have to be grounded enough in yourself to just say, okay, even if it hurts your feelings. And see, and that's the thing I think that we don't get a lot of times. We think that if I say I know who I am and I love me, that if somebody says something to me, it's not supposed to hurt. Yes, it will hurt. It will hurt your feelings, but I love me. Come on, me. Let's go home. They don't love me. They don't love us. So we going on in. That's the end of that. And so that's the gist of guilt versus shame. So, Elder Moss, going back to your original question, how you felt with shame and not guilt. Questions, comments? We have anything online, Bishop? Okay. So that's the difference between guilt and shame. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. So this time, but this time you should have been able to just walk away, to just say, because otherwise, what happened from the conviction before and now this time when you said it outside of you? That's outside of you. Mm-mm. So that's ego.
Then you had to show up.
Because that's right. So now you've, that's right. They ain't gonna punk me. And so that's ego. That's a whole different class. Because now what happens is that you, the outside influence and how you perceive you would look. Because you say all these people were around me, all those people were out there. So you felt pressure to, so, but when you know who you are, they can say whatever they want. You can say whatever you want. I don't care if everybody in here is laughing. It don't bother me one bit because I know who I am. And that's not going to make me come out of my character. Uh, But what did you do about the in, the incident? Right. So you went there again outside of you. Okay. And that's all we can do. Yep. That's all we can. That's where you start. Mhm. Absolutely. I had the same incident and last Wednesday. I told Pastor, one of my coworkers. I've been reminded, I teach reminded, and I still did it. So one of the guys at work, he just would not shut up about this birthday cake. So every person's birthday, I bring them a birthday cake. And I started making my own cakes for them because it was a nice gesture. But then they took away my telework day. I said, so now y'all going back to the store bought cakes because I ain't taking up one of my days to make y'all a cake. So the one guy, he was like, well, we don't want that. And he's just cursing. You know, I work in the firehouse. So everybody just, it's like being in the Navy. And everybody just curse, 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 curse. And he said, well, when you bring that cake in here, I'm going to take the cake and I'm gonna put it in the trash can. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, whatever, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. And so I did well until the day of, and they're getting ready to cut the cake. And it was his birthday. It was him and some two other people's birthday. And so his name's on the cake, whatever. So he was the only person whose name who was on the cake that was in there. So Chief said, here, you cut the cake. And so he took it and he just started stabbing it. And so I looked at him. I said, you are such a, and if Selena wasn't in here, I would at least kind of mouth it to y'all what he said. And then he was like, wait, V, because they were all in shock. I mean, they were in shock. And he's like, V, wait, wait, wait. I'm sorry. You do so much for us. Come back. So I just took my lunch because I realized I'm all the way on the other side now. So I go back and I'm sitting there. So it's Wednesday. I turn on the Bible study. And Pastor saying, now you gonna let somebody take you out of your character? Now what about that? I said, oh my, of all days, shut up. And so, and I mean, Paul was in rare form, and he was going and going and going. And I texted him, knowing that he's not gonna see it till after Bible study. I said, I wish you had caught me about 20 minutes earlier because this is a wrap. Now, in the past, I can hold a grudge like forever. When I'm done with you, I'm done. Right? I'm done. I'm not gonna say anything else to you. We ain't never gonna be in the same space. None of that. Pre-reminded. So the guy came to the door and he was so sincere. He said, V, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. He said, I am so sorry. He said, I did not mean. I said, you're good. I said, honestly, you're good. I said, that was me. You're good. And he's like, no, I feel bad. He said, you've never been mad. Like I've been mad plenty of times. I've just never shown it. And so he went on back to his office and all day he kept coming, showing me different things. Hey, look at this. And I stopped every time and gave him my undivided attention because who's growing in this moment? Me. I can't hold that grudge. And it took all of me to keep on talking to him. And then that night was the graduation and Bishop was doing the invocation and the benediction. So he came and he told me, he said he was at the car waiting for me because I guess he thought I'm going to tell Paul what he did and everything. And we didn't, we laughed and we had a good time. We didn't talk about it. He went to Indiana the next day. I texted him, said, hey, how you doing? Did you get there? Was your flight okay? And everything. And I was so proud of myself. I said, ooh, I let it go. I was so excited. I was like, I didn't hold a grudge. I let it go. And so I know exactly why I did it because it was, and this is what I was talking to you about, Elder Moss. How do you know that it wasn't him, it was the fact that they took my telework day away. That's what it was. I, honestly, because I stewed over that thing for about 2 weeks. Every time I thought about it, I was still talking about it, and I could hear myself talking, and I knew, shut up, because you're creating something. You're creating, and so I created that incident so that I could see, see, you're not where you thought you were. So I totally understand. It happens to the best of us. Any questions, comments? Because okay, Chris, wait, Mike's coming from everywhere.
So I just want to thank you, for this class. I really appreciate learning the difference between shame and guilt. For me, I realized I don't really have that big a problem with guilt. My stuff was all shame. My stuff was all internal. And learning how to forgive myself and let go and realize who I am.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and just as I'm hearing you talk about and explain all this stuff, just different people are coming to mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's that, that's that. But for not having the guilt, though, I have been accused a lot of times of being emotionless,
Mhm.
or whatever the case may be. Because my favorite saying is when people say stuff, okay, well, thanks for sharing.
Right.
That's your opinion. Feel the way you want to feel,
Hmm.
and or me not apologizing. Like, well, you never apologize. Well, I don't feel guilty about what I said or what I did. Not that I'm never wrong or that I can't apologize, but when I don't, it's like I don't have no guilt about it.
Hmm.
So just understanding the difference. I appreciate the class. Thank you.
Thank you. So in the point of I don't feel guilty, like some people are just like, okay, well, no, I'm good. I'm like, are you gonna help them move? No, no. I said, but they struggling. He said, okay. He doesn't have the whole guilt thing, but I don't think that he's emotionless. And when I say he, I think we all know who I'm talking about. I don't think that he's emotionless, but what we have had to learn is that if I say, please forgive me, I'm not saying I admit guilt. I feel guilty or anything. I'm saying to you, yes, to please see me in a different light. Don't hold this. Yeah, don't hold this against me. We say charge it to my head and not to my heart. So it's not that I don't feel or he doesn't feel guilt for the things that he does and says. It's that he's moving. He's going. He is just like okay, yeah, right. And so, but this is what we can't say. If I offended you, no, don't say that. If this person tells you that you offended them, it is their problem, but out of kindness and gentleness, grace and ease, I'm gonna comfort you. Right. And you, or you, and some people, like I know Elder Moss would say, tell me why that hurt. Tell me why that hurt you. And then allow the person to say, okay, well, because blah, 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 blah. And if it's their shame, okay, then you know, oh, I'm good, because that's our own stuff. You know, if Chad had asked me about the cake, I would have told him. But he didn't ask me. He was just like, I'm gonna see her husband tonight. I want to get this right now because I don't want to see Bishop Thomas tonight and he slapped me. I want to get this right. So, but yes, thank you for sharing. You got something, Deacon Donna? Okay, she don't feel guilt, shame, or nothing else. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, we're gonna go down from this place. We're gonna do some prayer. Oh, Father God, we bless you for this evening, for this time of teaching, for your spirit that dwells within us, for your spirit that dwells in this place. God, we thank you for learning more of you because every time we learn more of ourselves, we get closer to knowing who you are in us. And we are so grateful. I thank you for everyone who came out. I thank you for those who are online. I bless you, oh God, for my husband who is running everything in the back and so supportive of me. I bless you, God, for the members of West End, for all that attend here. We thank you. We give you glory, honor, and praise. We let it be so, and so it is. Amen. Amen.